In this video we examine the historical punishment known as the water ladder stretch. The discussion begins with the rise and governance system of King Aramon. We then explain how the water ladder stretch functioned, why it was introduced, and how officials operated it within their legal framework. Guys, can you help me to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel? And it's my dream. Sorry for interruption. It's humble request. Let's jump into the video. King Aramon of the Lower Riverlands emerged during a period when several border territories lacked central authority. His ascent began when river merchants requested a stable ruler to regulate trade routes. Aramon accepted this role and gradually consolidated his influence. He created a governing council of scribes, tax officers, and regional elders. The system functioned to keep local disputes manageable and ensure consistent record-keeping. This administrative base strengthened his control over the territory. Aramon's early governance focused on stabilizing agricultural cycles. He encouraged irrigation projects along the River Dallon and granted land rights to farmers who supported communal water systems. These policies improved crop yields and strengthened his reputation. He ordered detailed surveys of surrounding wetlands and riverbanks. These surveys allowed him to map natural resources with accuracy. Timber, reeds, and fishing zones were catalogued under new state regulations. Aramon's taxation policy followed a structured formula based on land productivity. Farmers, artisans, and merchants received fixed rates that were reviewed annually. This predictability allowed the kingdom to reduce disputes related to revenue. Administrative scholars trained in record-keeping monitored these tax systems. Their reports informed adjustments to irrigation schedules and labor distribution. Aramon valued their assessments and used them to refine governance. The rise of the king's authority was marked by the building of the River Watch Fortress. This structure acted as a headquarters for river guards who patrolled trade barges. It also housed officials responsible for toll collection. Aramon recruited soldiers from fishing villages and agricultural families. These recruits received standardized training that emphasized rowing skills, navigation, and coordinated patrol routines. The river guards became central to regional stability. He issued legal codes concerning ownership of riverbanks. These laws prevented disputes between fishermen, farmers, and transport workers. Clear boundaries reduced internal conflict and reinforced state control. King Aramon introduced uniform weight and measurement tools for all river trade. Metal rods, standardized baskets, and official scales were distributed to merchant centers. This reform increased trust among traders. To strengthen his position, he negotiated agreements with upstream clans. These agreements ensured mutual protection of water routes during seasonal floods. The pacts also established shared responsibilities for maintaining river embankments. The king organized a network of inspectors who monitored water levels. The inspectors sent reports during snowmelt seasons and after heavy rainfall. Their data allowed the kingdom to prepare for potential flooding. He expanded agricultural infrastructure by ordering the construction of water wheels and lifting devices. These machines helped farmers irrigate higher ground. Aramon viewed technological improvements as essential to state longevity. The king established a cultural archive that documented myths, songs, and historical records of river tribes. Scholars compiled these materials for future study. The archive reinforced collective identity across the region. Aramon also promoted civic training among youth. Programs taught literacy, arithmetic, and river safety. The goal was to prepare them for administrative or engineering roles later in life. His court included advisors specializing in hydrology, agriculture, wildlife, and construction. Their research influenced long-term planning across the kingdom. Aramon relied on their findings for regional development. He expanded trade by negotiating salt and metal contracts with distant settlements. These trade relations increased economic security. Riverboats began carrying a wider range of goods under state supervision. The king initiated periodic census counts. These counts documented household numbers, occupations, livestock, and crop yields. Census data guided decisions on resource distribution. Aramon constructed river barriers and sluice gates to regulate seasonal flow. These engineering projects reduced crop loss and improved water allocation. They also demonstrated his attention to systemized management. A structured labor rotation system was introduced for large-scale projects. Workers contributed fixed days each season to state engineering tasks. The system ensured steady progress without disrupting agricultural routines. Aramon reorganized the kingdom into administrative districts. Each district had its own deputy, responsible for taxes, river maintenance, and law enforcement. This decentralization improved day-to-day operations. He wrote a comprehensive manual on river governance. The manual covered irrigation rules, fishing rights, and flood protocols. Officials used it as a reference across the region. His reign also expanded state granaries. These storage centers kept surplus grain during years of high yield. Stored grains stabilized prices during poor harvests and supported public works. Aramon introduced annual public meetings where citizens voiced concerns. Records from these meetings informed policy adjustments. The king encouraged transparency in administrative decisions. A wildlife management system tracked seasonal fish migration. The kingdom restricted fishing during specific months to preserve long-term river productivity. These measures demonstrated ecological awareness. Aramon created a dedicated engineering school where trainees studied water flow, embankment design, and material durability. Graduates joined state construction teams responsible for maintaining major river structures. He standardized the construction of boats used by transport workers. The boats followed a regulated design that improved stability, cargo capacity, and maneuverability. Uniform design reduced accidents. During his middle reign, Aramon expanded roads connecting inland villages to river ports. These roads improved movement of grain and goods. They also facilitated quicker communication. The king maintained a careful balance between agricultural, commercial, and military priorities. Regular reports from district deputies allowed him to track the kingdom's performance. He responded to inefficiencies with targeted reforms. Aramon introduced structured training for scribes. They studied mathematics, cartography, and administrative language. Many later became district administrators or inspectors. His legal reforms included clear punishments for theft, fraud, and unauthorized use of water systems. Penalties followed consistent guidelines to avoid arbitrary judgments. Judges received training on procedural fairness. Aramon expanded the kingdom's metal workshops. These workshops produced tools for farmers, construction teams, and river guards, increased output, reduced dependence on external suppliers. He invested in building public rest houses along trade routes. Merchants used these shelters during long journeys. The facilities included storage rooms, water points, and basic safety measures. The king also expanded medicinal gardens near major settlements. Herbalists cultivated plants used for treating infections, fevers, and injuries. These gardens formed the basis for organized medical practice. Aramon built observation towers along the river. Inspectors stationed there monitored traffic, water conditions, and weather patterns. Their observations informed planning during peak trade seasons. He supported the development of clay workshops that produced pottery for storing grain, oil, and water. Standardized containers helped regulate trade quantities. They also improved long-term storage practices. The king encouraged open forums for engineers to discuss innovations. These gatherings promoted knowledge exchange between districts. Ideas from these forums shaped new construction methods. Aramon's rule was characterized by continuous infrastructure maintenance. Bridges, piers, and embankments were inspected seasonally. Repair teams followed structured procedures, guided by engineering manuals. He established a council responsible for monitoring regional disputes. The council mediated conflicts to reduce court burdens. Many settlements adopted early resolution practices because of this model. The king's efforts at organizing water distribution prevented many inter-village conflicts. Sluicegate schedules were publicly displayed to ensure fairness. Citizens appreciated the clarity of these systems. Aramon developed a mineral resource map after sending surveyors into upland territories. The map documented deposits of iron, copper, and shale. These findings guided future mining efforts. His kingdom adopted a structured annual festival to honor river workers. The event recognized contributions from engineers, fishermen, and boat builders. It strengthened state unity and emphasized shared responsibility. Aramon maintained diplomatic correspondence with neighboring rulers. Letters documented trade terms, boundary agreements, and weather forecasts. These communications reduced misunderstandings. He created a central translation office for handling foreign documents. Translators studied languages of upstream and downstream regions. Their work improved diplomatic accuracy. The final decades of Aramon's reign focused on preserving administrative consistency. He inspected districts personally to ensure proper function of irrigation, taxation, and trade. His attention to detail kept the system stable. The water ladder stretch emerged during the middle period of King Aramon's rule. It was developed by the river guard engineers who specialized in water-based restraint systems. The method was used primarily for interrogation and punishment of offenders involved in river-related crimes. The apparatus consisted of a long wooden ladder, reinforced with iron brackets. Prisoners were secured with leather straps around wrists, ankles, and torso. The structure allowed precise control of elevation when lowered into a river. The latter was fitted with a pivot mechanism at its upper end. This pivot connected to a lifting frame positioned on river piers. Guards could adjust the angle to increase or decrease the water's pull on the body. The method's central principle relied on the force of flowing water. As the ladder descended, currents generated torsion on the prisoner's joints. Extended exposure caused muscle strain, joint misalignment, and tendon damage. The device was first recorded in administrative manuals from the River Watch Fortress. The manuals described step-by-step procedures for securing the subject. They also listed guidelines for water depth, current strength, and maximum exposure time. During early use, the method served as a deterrent for illegal diversion of irrigation channels. Offenders who altered water paths risked affecting agricultural output. The water ladder stretch was introduced to emphasize the seriousness of such violations. Guards were trained to assess river conditions before each procedure. They measured water temperature, speed of flow, and depth. These assessments ensured uniform application across different districts. The cold temperature of the River Dallin played a significant role. Winter runoff caused water to remain icy for most of the year. Prolonged exposure led to hypothermia, slow circulation, and reduced muscle function. Strain on the body increased when the ladder was partially submerged. Currents pushed the limbs in opposing directions. This pressure caused gradual stretching of joints, especially in shoulders and knees. District reports documented cases where tendons ruptured after extended immersion. These records were used to refine operational limits. Officials attempted to maintain consistency across all enforcement sites. The device was often placed near inspection posts where river traffic was monitored. This allowed guards to perform the punishment without transporting prisoners long distances. Staging areas included platforms, pulleys, and anchoring beams. Aramon's council approved the method as part of a broader effort to regulate river stability. Unauthorized tampering with floodgates, irrigation ditches, or fishing zones was considered a threat to public order. The punishment was therefore categorized as a waterwork offense. Procedural logs from scribes included notes on posture alignment. Straps were tightened to prevent twisting before immersion. This ensured that force from currents acted predictably on targeted joints. The ladder frame was constructed from hardwood, chosen for resistance to water damage. Annual inspections checked for mold, warping, or weakening. Maintenance routines followed a structured timetable. A team of guards operated the lifting mechanism. Coordinated pulling allowed smooth descent and ascent. The process minimized accidental dropping or sudden shifts in pressure. Exposure times varied based on administrative rulings. Minor infractions resulted in short intervals, while severe violations led to extended immersion. Officials recorded time segments using water clocks for accuracy. River physicians monitored prisoners during and after the process. They documented circulation changes, respiratory patterns, and joint displacement. These observations helped officials evaluate long-term effects. Some districts used variations of the ladder design. In slower rivers, additional weights were attached to increase current influence. In swifter waters, guards adjusted the angle to reduce impact. The water ladder stretch relied on natural geography rather than constructed punishment chambers. This allowed smaller districts to adopt the method without major infrastructure investments. Riverbanks became functional enforcement sites. Aramon's administration viewed the device as an efficient, non-fatal system. It focused on disabling offenders rather than eliminating them. Injuries served as warnings to deter future violations. The interrogation component functioned through controlled discomfort. Prisoners often provided information to reduce exposure time. Officials noted that currents induced consistent physiological reactions. Engineers who built the device received specialized training in hydrodynamics. Their research focused on ensuring predictable force application. Test ladders were used to measure water pressure at different seasons. District commanders were responsible for ensuring ethical boundaries were maintained. These boundaries were outlined in legal manuals that restricted excessive immersion. Violations of guidelines resulted in disciplinary actions. Some regions reported variations in outcome due to seasonal differences. Spring melt increased current speed, raising the likelihood of tendon strain. Summer months reduced water force and lowered overall impact. For administrative clarity, every water ladder stretch session required 3 witnesses. A scribe, a river guard, and a local deputy observed the procedure. Their collective reports formed the official record. The platform structure used for the ladder was built with stone foundations. These foundations anchored the lifting frame against shifting currents. Engineers maintained them with mortar repairs and sediment removal. Nearby storage sheds housed all equipment. The sheds contained spare straps, wood beams, pulleys, and maintenance tools. River guards followed inventory checklists to ensure readiness. The King's Advisory Council revised regulations annually. Adjustments considered incident logs, health reports, and engineering assessments. These revisions kept the method standardized across districts. Punishments involving the ladder were announced publicly through village notice boards. Notices listed the offender, violation, and punishment duration. This ensured transparency within the community. The method became a central part of the kingdom's water safety policy. It reinforced state control over irrigation, navigation, and trade. Citizens understood its purpose within the broader legal framework. Aramon's administrators emphasized record preservation. Each district sent monthly reports detailing water conditions and enforcement activities. These reports created a long-term archive of data. The method rarely changed because officials considered it reliable. Its consistent effects across different regions contributed to its longevity. Manuals for new guards referenced procedures established decades earlier. Engineers continued to refine ladder materials. Stronger ropes and better cured leather improved durability. Upgraded iron brackets enhanced structural stability during repeated use. The water ladder stretch also applied to smuggling cases. Unauthorized movement of goods along secret channels interfered with tax collection. The method served as a deterrent for such activities. River physicians provided standardized medical treatment after exposure. Warm cloths, herbal extracts, and circulation exercises were used. Their goal was to restore basic movement without long-term immobilization. Cases involving joint dislocation were documented with accuracy. Physicians provided diagrams of affected areas. These diagrams helped engineering teams understand which body parts experienced the most strain. The Administrative Council funded periodic field studies. These studies measured the relationship between current strength and injury frequency. Data guided adjustments in angle and immersion depth. Reports noted that the method worked differently for individuals with varying body mass. Lighter individuals experienced greater drift from water pull. Heavier individuals remained more stable but endured sustained pressure. Some regions introduced protective padding during initial restraint. Padding reduced skin abrasions caused by leather straps. This modification was added to later versions of manuals. Prisoners often entered a state of reduced mobility due to cold water. Physicians referred to this as river shock. The condition was monitored to ensure it did not escalate into respiratory failure. Locations chosen for the punishment were selected for predictable current patterns. Engineers conducted annual riverbed surveys to ensure stability. Areas with sudden drops or whirlpools were excluded. The kingdom kept a strict separation between criminal punishment and political administration. The water ladder stretch was reserved for violations directly affecting water systems. Political disputes did not fall under this category. Aramon's hydrologists documented how different angles influenced current interaction. Their calculations guided construction of updated pivot frames. The frames allowed more precise adjustments. Officials emphasized that the method's purpose was regulatory control. It reinforced proper management of irrigation channels, fishing zones, and water routes. The clarity of its function supported consistent enforcement. By the late period of its use, each district maintained detailed charts correlating water temperature with exposure time limits. These charts ensured that punishments remained within established boundaries. Compliance checks occurred during seasonal inspections. The water ladder stretch remained a defining element of water governance throughout Aramon's administration. It supported legal structures established in Episode 1. Its operational details shaped the kingdom's regulatory identity. The use of the water ladder stretch began to decline during the later years of Aramon's rule. Administrative councils observed inconsistencies in how districts applied exposure limits. These inconsistencies created debates about uniform enforcement. Medical officers submitted reports describing long-term joint damage in former offenders. These findings prompted discussions about alternative penalties that produced fewer lasting injuries. The council considered the health data significant for future policy. Hydrologists noted that seasonal shifts altered river behavior, making standardized procedures harder to maintain. Variations in current strength created unpredictable outcomes. District commanders responded by requesting revised operational manuals. Aramon appointed a committee to evaluate all water-related punishments. The committee compared the water ladder stretch with newer mechanical restraint devices. Their analysis highlighted the challenges of relying on natural river conditions. A new generation of engineers suggested chamber-based systems that used controlled pressure instead of flowing water. These proposals gained support because they allowed consistent measurements. Officials preferred systems that did not depend on geography. Community feedback also influenced the decline. Villagers expressed concerns about the visibility of the punishment near busy river ports. Notice boards recorded increasing petitions requesting less disruptive methods. The Administrative Council gradually reduced the range of offences eligible for the latter. Smuggling cases and fishing violations shifted to fines or temporary labour service. Only severe water tampering offences remained under its jurisdiction. As irrigation technology improved, fewer individuals attempted unauthorised channel diversion. Reduced offences contributed to a natural decrease in the device's use. Districts reported fewer sessions each year. Toward the end of the period, most districts maintained the ladder only for historical reference. Manuals were archived in the Riverwatch Fortress. The method eventually transitioned from active practice to documented record.